The African Union is a continental body working on ways of improving the lives of people inside the continent and the people of African descent elsewhere. Accordingly, the African Union Commission Agricultural, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment recently held a continental platform that evaluates and sets new strategies for the agricultural development of the continent. It is a specialized technical committee comprised of ministers and senior experts has evaluated the agricultural, rural development, water and environment status of the continent and deliberated on the future ways of meeting the Agenda 2063 goals via its flagship projects.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the ministerial segment of the 6th ordinary session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment. This meeting presents a vital opportunity to assess the progress that has been made in implementing the key decisions that were adopted during the 5th ordinary session and the extraordinary session of the STC held in 2023 and 2024 respectively. It also allows us to deliberate on and approve new programs which are aligned with our strategic priorities in agriculture, rural development, water, and environment. Your decisions and recommendations during this session will guide the programmatic direction of the department as we move forward. During the 5th ordinary session, we reported on the implementation of previous decisions, and your guidance led to key recommendations that were subsequently endorsed by the Executive Council of the African Union in 2024.
Regarding the Africa's collective resolve to transform its agri-food systems and safeguard the environment for future generations, Esther Fotabang, the Director of Agriculture, Food Security and Environment Sustainability in the African Union Development Agency, New Partnership for African Development of the African Union Commission reiterated Africa has experienced transformational change over the past 2 years. Substantially, she mentioned the Kampala Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program Strategy, Declaration and Action Plan.
It is a pleasure to join you at the 6th session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture and Environment, a platform that continues to reaffirm Africa's collective resolve to transform its agri-food systems and safeguard our environment for generations to come. Over the past 2 years, Africa has experienced transformational change. The Kampala Declaration, Strategy and Action Plan was adopted by our heads of states, the only continent that has such a coordinated approach to addressing issues of food security and environmental management and security. The last year, together with the African Union Commission, AUD and NEPAD have worked in preparing the space for member states to implement the Kampala Declaration, Strategy and Action Plan beginning 2026. In this regard, we have undertaken a readiness program that has engaged with the permanent secretaries of member states to collectively reflect on the Kampala Declaration and Action Plan and to see and strategize on its rolling out. We have engaged with the farmer organizations that are the critical stakeholders for ensuring food system transformation in our continent. And we have done some rapid engagements with member states in reviewing where they are with their national agricultural investment plans.
Representing the Arab Maghreb Union, the Food Security Division head of the Union, Fauzia Chakiri, addressed the 6th session that the regional economic communities appreciate the African Union's steadfast commitment of transforming agriculture and safeguarding environment.
On behalf of the regional economic communities, I wish to express our sincere appreciation of the African Union Commission, to the African Union Commission for its continued leadership and steadfast commitment to advancing Africa's agriculture, transformation, and environmental sustainability. The REC stands firmly in support of the African Union effort in implementing the Kampala Declaration and in promoting key continental priorities such as the blue economy, the development of livestock and animal resources, and the sustainable management of our natural resources. We firmly believe that enhanced regional cooperation, knowledge sharing, and policy coherence are vital to accelerating our collective progress toward Agenda 2063 vision of food, secure, prosperous, and resilient Africa. The RIC reaffirms their full commitment to working hand in hand with the African Union Commission, member states, and our regional and international partners to translate these commitments into tangible results for our people and our planet.
The outgoing chair of the FIBS Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment of the African Union Commission, Kia Kulaga Fred Bewino, on his part praised the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia for the great reception and warm welcome. As well, he said the African Union Commission and the Specialized Technical Committee are words of appreciation for organizing the Continental Platform and convening it as per the schedule.
I express my sincere appreciation to the government of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia for the reception and the great hospitality that we have received since we arrived in this beautiful city of Addis Ababa. I further appreciate the African Union and the technical team for organizing and convening this meeting. In addition, I appreciate the other African Union agencies and all stakeholders that have participated in drafting the documents, and the presentation is to facilitate this meeting. I would like to appreciate the African Union Specialized Technical Committee for nominating Uganda as the chair of the 5th STC-ARDWE since 2023. Uganda's term has ended today, after which we are handing over the chairmanship, and Uganda takes on the role of rapporteur. I want to immensely thank you for the cordiality that has been accorded to Uganda as chair, and I pray that similar good working relationship will be given to us during our time as the rapporteur. I would like to acknowledge and appreciate the team of the 5th STC-ARDWE, the first vice chairperson, which has been Central Region, Cameroon, the second vice chairperson, Western, Côte d'Ivoire, the third vice chairperson, Southern Region, Namibia, and rapporteur, Northern Region, Egypt, which team I have served with, and we have provided a good ambience, and who have provided a good ambience for me to perform my duties. Thank you very much for the teamwork. The various works of our team, policies and common AU positions will be consolidated in this meeting in readiness for submission to the AU Summit of February 2026.
Office of the Legal Counsel of the African Union Commission on its part assured the quorum issues and other legal considerations to proceed as per the statutory of the African Union Commission and hence ensured that things were satisfactory to proceed the session.
On behalf of the Legal Counsel and on my own behalf, I have the pleasure to convey to you the official results for the election of the Bureau of ARDWE, which took place on 21 October of this month. And in light of the conclusions, among the 5 regional economic commissions and in conformity with Article 16 of the Rules of Procedure on ARDWE, the member states came to a consensus on the following membership of the Bureau. For Central Africa, which is the chair, the Republic of Cameroon was elected chair. For West Africa, which is first vice chair, the Republic of Ghana was elected. With regard to Southern Africa, which is second chair, Namibia was elected. And with regard to East Africa, for the post of rapporteur, the Republic of Uganda was elected.
Moses Vilakati, the African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, reminded the participants about the Malabo Declaration and the other related affairs that are valuable to implement the comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program strategy.
That were endorsed by the Executive Council of the African Union. In 2024, we then convened an extraordinary session in response to the urgency surrounding the conclusion of the Malabo Declaration and the imperative to define post-Malabo agenda for CAADP implementation. I am pleased to inform you that the Kampala CAADP Declaration, along with the Strategy and Action Plan 2026 to 2035, focusing on building resilient and sustainable agri-food systems in Africa, was endorsed by heads of state and government during the AU Extraordinary Summit, which was held in Kampala, Uganda. This was from the 9th to the 11th January 2025. During this session of the 6th STC, we will also present to you the domestication as well as the implementation guidelines of the CAADP Kampala Declaration for your consideration and approval. These guidelines will help member states develop targeted interventions for a secure food continent. The CAADP Biennial Review Report remains a cornerstone for tracking progress. The 5th Review Report, which marks the final assessment under the Malabo Declaration, will be presented for your consideration. It highlights member states' performance across the commitment categories aimed at accelerating agricultural growth, shared prosperity, and improved livelihoods. In addition, several documents will be tabled for your review and endorsement. In September, Honorable Ministers, we convened the Second Africa Climate Summit under the theme Accelerating Global Climate Solutions and Financing for Africa's Resilient and Green Development. The summit emphasized the need for fair, predictable, and substantial climate finance as a foundation for climate justice and genuine cooperation. It culminated in the adoption of the Addis Ababa Declaration on Climate Change and a call for action.
When it comes to the Kampala Declaration's thematic areas, Stera and Fotabang underlined, the critical areas are discerned by the Commission and given due focus. The Director mentioned the details that are valuable to the consideration of the Member States, through which Africa can realize its food sovereignty.
under the guidance and the new focus of the Kampala Declaration and strategy, we have invested time to look at critical thematic areas, as mentioned by His Excellency, the Commissioner, on critical areas that will drive transformation in the continent. This, together with the Commission, we have looked at issues to advance the harmonization of seeds and biosafety regulations. We have strengthened farmer-managed seed systems and have accelerated the adoption of responsible biotechnologies that are essential to Africa's food sovereignty. The Continental Framework on Genome Editing is now a guiding policy aligned across regions. The Seed Sector Performance Index is now enabling evidence-based decision-making in 50 member states. Your Excellency, today the Kampala implementation guidelines will be presented to you for adoption. This will set the pathway for a consistent and coherent implementation by member states and regional economic communities of the Kampala Declaration. We look forward to presenting that to you for your consideration and adoption. Your Excellency, we must also recognize that we have unfinished business. We have had the performance of the biennial report indicates areas where we need to improve. And again, the report will be presented to you for your consideration and guidance. So with these few words, we want to make the commitment, pledging that support as AU institutions to continue to support member states as they engage in the rollout and implementation of the CAADP Kampala strategy, guidelines and implementation, and all the other accompanying policies on thematic areas that we have adopted as member states.
The outgoing chair of the 5th Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment of the African Union Commission, Kiakulaga Fred Biwino, gladly expressed his readiness to hand over the chairmanship of the Specialized Technical Committee for the 6th term chair. He also revealed that he is proud and happy of the achievements of the 5th Specialized Technical Committee.
It is my pride that several of these are available and will therefore make a great contribution to the summit. As the chair of the 5th Ordinary Session of the STC ARDWE, I'm glad to hand over the mantle to the next chairman. Proud and happy of the achievements of our session, I promise that the transition will be smooth, whereby the outgoing and the incoming team will even work together. I'm delighted to attend the 6th Ordinary Session of the STC ARDWE to review progress made in the implementation of previous AU and STC decisions and recommendations, provide guidance, adopt reports, frameworks and programs, as well as provide recommendations that will guide the activities of the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Blue Economy for the next 2 years. It gives me great pleasure by the fact that the 6th STC ARDWE is being organized at the end of the Malabo CAADP agenda, that is 2014 to 2025, as we transition to the Kampala CAADP agenda, which is 2026 to 2035. The Kampala CAADP expands the scope of issues to be addressed, making the work of AU more meaningful and useful to society. I cannot end my remarks without appreciating the 37th African Union Assembly meeting that adopted the 4 critical decisions, namely, 1, adoption of coffee as a strategic commodity for the African Union. 2, hosting of the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit in Nairobi. 3, agreeing to Uganda's bid to host the extraordinary summit of the African Union on the post-Malabo Cardiff development agenda. And 4, adoption of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization as a specialized agency of the African Union.
Office of the Legal Counsel of the African Union Commission reminded the session that the term of the office is just 2 years and the power shift shall remain democratic and fair through all legal criteria. It all is rooted in the elections conducted, and none other than that the power seizure of the Specialized Technical Committee happens, the Legal Counsel of the African Union Commission indicated.
Now, with regard to third chair, consultations are still ongoing for North Africa. Your Excellencies, the term of office of the Bureau is 2 years and should be renewable once. So they will be taking over their functions as a result of the elections that have been conducted. The Office of the Legal Counsel sincerely congratulates the constituted Bureau of ARDWE. We are convinced that the new Bureau will play a decisive role in promoting the aims and objectives of the STC and to achieving the objectives that were formulated in Malabo.
Chairperson, we now proceed with the handover between the outgoing chairperson and the incoming chairperson. Since the minister in charge of water and environment, agriculture from the Republic of Cameroon, who has been elected as the chairperson, is not available in the room, we now give the opportunity for the first vice chairperson, Honorable Minister Emilia Arta from the Republic of Ghana, to join the high table for the handover ceremony to chair the rest of our activity.
Commissioner Vlakati also recalled the African Equitable and Sustainable Water Vision of 2025 for the participants, through which the management for poverty alleviation and socioeconomic development are realized.
You will also recall that the African Water Vision 2025, which envisions equitable and sustainable water resources management for poverty alleviation, socio-economic development, and environmental sustainability, expires this year. A successor document, which we term the Africa Water Vision and Policy, will be presented to frame inclusive and climate-resilient pathways for water resources as well as management. Excellencies, our work in meteorology is foundational to climate resilience. I am pleased to report progress on the Integrated African Strategy on Meteorology 2021 to 2030, now supported by an endorsed implementation and resource mobilization plan. A major milestone was the launch of the Africa-EU Space Partnership Program in April 2025. Additionally, the Space for Early Warning in Africa, which is termed SEWA initiative, was launched in June with 20 million euros in EU funding, which is enhancing member states' access to Earth observation and meteorological data for early warning systems. The 2021-2022 Africa Biennial Report reveals sobering statistics. Over 612 disasters, 137 million affected, and nearly 38 billion US dollars in economic losses. These figures underscore the urgency of our disaster risk reduction efforts. The Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Early Action Systems has made tangible progress, including the establishment of 10 situational rooms and the launch of the Africa Drought Watch. On biodiversity, the inaugural Africa Biodiversity Summit, which will take place in Gaborone, Botswana, from the 2nd to the 5th of November 2025, is a milestone indeed. This will provide political leadership and culminate in the Africa Biodiversity Summit Declaration, ensuring a unified African voice in global biodiversity fora.
The outgoing chair of the 5th Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment of the African Union Commission, Kiakulaga Fred Biweno, who also is the State Minister of Agriculture for the Republic of Uganda, reminded the Kampala's Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Strategy 2026 to 2035 was promulgated.
Uganda hosted the 2025 Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Summit in January 2025, where the CADIB Strategy and Action Plan 2026-2035 and the CADIB Kampala Declaration were adopted and were officially launched in Johannesburg, South Africa, in May 2025. Thank you for allowing Uganda to host the CADIB. This will forever make Uganda proud, since the Kampala CADIB Declaration is now entrenched in the history books. At this moment, let me appreciate my colleague who is not here, the Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, for the tireless effort he placed in lobbying and finally hosting CADIB in Uganda. The CADIB Kampala Declaration is a landmark declaration which will be instrumental in changing Africa's agricultural landscape to agri-food systems and industrialization necessary to better position Africa as the world goes through unprecedented geopolitical, economic, and trade shifts. The CADIB Kampala Declaration is also notable for its strong inclusion of animal resources, that is livestock, fisheries, aquaculture, and apiculture, addressing animal feeding resources, animal health, genetic resources, among others, which will elevate animal resource contribution to attainment of the ambitious CADIB goals. A topical issue of interest and relevance to African communities is the existence of the donkey as an animal that serves the rural communities in various ways. That is under threat. I therefore wish that the donkey issue is given more attention at the AU level as follows.
Ahead of UNCCD COP17, we reaffirm our commitment to securing a legally binding protocol on drought management. I therefore take this opportunity to congratulate South Africa on its nomination as Africa's Drought Protocol champion. Honorable Ministers, the blue economy still remains a powerful engine for growth, with fisheries alone valued at over $24 billion annually. We therefore propose extending the decade of the African seas and oceans to 2036 to address persistent challenges such as overexploitation, marine pollution, and climate change. To support evidence-based decision-making, we are also proposing the Africa Fisheries and Aquaculture Database. Agricultural productivity in Africa still remains below averages, largely due to limited use of productivity-enhancing inputs such as fertilizers, irrigation, and quality seeds, as well as unsustainable practices. Addressing these challenges systematically is very, very essential to unlocking the transformative potential of Africa's agri-food systems. As a result, upon assuming office in March 2025, I launched a 100-day plan aimed at accelerating progress towards food security. The plan focused on soil health, fertilizer optimization, seed system development, biodiversity protection, youth employment, blue economy advancement, and climate resilience. Early results are promising and demonstrate the impact of coordinated strategic interventions. In conclusion, Excellencies, we have indeed made commendable progress, yet the scale of the task ahead remains significant.
1, donkeys are critical for Africa and African livelihood, especially among women in marginalized communities dependent on donkeys since time immemorial. 2, since the advent of donkey slaughtering for the skin trade in Africa in the mid-2010s, donkeys face an existential challenge due to poor numbers and low capacity for breeding by the donkey species. Current science clearly shows that the world has no capacity to breed donkeys to satisfy the demand for the skin trade. 3, African Union heads of state meeting in February 2024 declared a ban in the trade of donkey skins all over Africa. It also recommended the development of a donkey strategy. AU member states have continued to implement the ban. However, there is a great need to redouble the effort of enforcing the ban all over Africa. Donkey slaughter in one country in Africa means donkey slaughter all over Africa, since our boundaries are porous. Number 4, in the second Pan-African Donkey Conference of 26th and 27th June 2025 in Côte d'Ivoire, the ministers endorsed Pan-African strategy for donkeys preservation and development, recommended this presentation to the STC for final endorsement and for guidance in developing a coordinated continental program for immediate implementation of the strategy and memorandum. I urge this AU STC to pass this donkey strategy for posterity of donkeys in Africa. I also urge the AU STC to recommend to the AU heads of state to commence a donkey development and preservation program with a clear monitoring and evaluation framework to implement the donkey strategy by the IBAR. In conclusion, I wish to commend all the stakeholders that contributed to the successful development and launch of the CADIP 2026-2035 strategy and action plan and the CADIP Kampala Declaration. I believe we're on the right track and therefore look forward to your successful implementation of the strategy and wish the 6th STC ARDW team success. And on that note, I hereby hand over.
Sectoral Technical Committee is composed of ministers in agriculture, in rural development, in water, sustainable environment, climate change, all under one roof. This is a strategic or policy-making technical committee. And the policy guidance that they give to us as Secretariat, we then take it to the Assembly. We then take it to the Assembly, which will be in February. So whatever decisions that come out of here will then be taken to the AU Assembly in February, where then they will then be endorsed and then become part and parcel of the African Union's programs. Because they look back, what did they decide 2 years back? Because once they make those decisions, then we as the implementers are then supposed to take it from there and implement. Now, it's a very key STC, this one, because as you rightly say, it deals with climate change issues, which are affecting us every day. The drought, disasters, etc. It also deals with agriculture. We can see that when it comes to agriculture, Africa is still not self-reliant. There is what is called the biennial review, where you review your progress. We have seen that not many countries have succeeded in ensuring that they meet the cut-up strategies, particularly when it comes to food security, when it comes to fertilizer utilization, comes to irrigation, seeds, etc. So we have a huge challenge. So we need a turnaround strategy to make sure that by 2030, 45% of the agri-foods in Africa should be coming from Africa. We are spending between 50 to 100 billion of US dollars buying food from outside. That money could be utilized from within. This is the strategic team that gives us guidance on what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how it needs to be done. And ours is to make sure that we implement. We have a flagship program, which is called the CADIP, Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, which was now endorsed by member states. This is a flagship program, and it is the one that says implement XYZ so that we can be food secure, so that we can address the issue of climate change, so that we can address the droughts that are obtaining. So here, this is ministers now who are now supposed to take it to their member states, the various member states, so that the 55 member states, if they were to follow that protocol, to follow the process towards implementing of the CADAP, 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll be saying Africa is now able to buy from within, because it also addressed the issue of intra-African trade. You are aware that intra-African trade is only about 15%. But when we look at the outside of Africa, 85%, that's where we get the trade to be vigorous. We need to change that. But obviously, if we have to do that, we need the issue of the infrastructure, the roads, the airlines, and whatever. And also the issue of borderless kind of communication. That will help us to make sure that we can feed ourselves. A country like Ethiopia here is exporting wheat outside of Africa, when we should be saying, let's sell to our neighbors, let's sell to Africa. You know, so those are some of the key things that we need to do. But we believe that the AfCFTA, which is saying we must sell to each other, will come of age and then will be self-reliant and selling to each other.
African Union Commission appears bold enough to realize its continental flagship project through the emboldened collaboration and solidarity among the member states of the Union. The Commission is dedicated in tilling all the available grounds to uplift the lives of the residents of the continent and the people of African descent, where they chin up and proudly speak of their mother continent.